Jeremy from Jeremy.net. First off, happy Easter. I am a comic book artist, writer, creator, self-publisher, and I share my creative process making art and comics here with you online. If you'd like to get additional bonus live streams twice a month, 2 to 3 times a month, and not just an hour-long live stream. We're talking 2.5, 3-hour-long live streams where I go into some of the best art books around, trying to suck all the knowledge out, show you my process for trying to level up my own artistic skills. You can become a Patreon subscriber at patreon.com. For as little as $2 a month, you get 2 to 3 additional bonus live streams a month. You can read my comic books for free, online, digitally. You get work in progress, blog posts, artwork shared throughout the month, and more. Get all that at patreon.com/GERIMI. Head on over and sign up. If you'd like to get work in progress animated gifts delivered to your inbox once a month, if you'd like to get a free digital sketchbook, if you'd like to get updates on what I'm reading, what I'm watching, the kind of things that are fueling my creative engine and inspiring me, you can sign up for my free monthly newsletter at newsletter.jeremy.net. And if you'd like to pick up physical comics for my comic books, or if you read digitally on Comixology or Kindle, you can go to amazon.jeremy.net. That'll forward you to my Amazon author page. You can pick up books like my first graphic novel, Eye of the Gods. It is a psychological thriller. It's a book about a man who is cursed with visions he cannot control. It's a self-contained graphic novel, 144 pages, black and white. I'm the artist, writer, gray toner, inker. I did pretty much everything but rolling it off of the printing press. You can pick up that, or my most recent comic book, Morning Star. This book tells the story of Lucifer's fall from heaven, but as a Western. It is an 8-issue comic book series. Volume 1 contains issues 1 through 4. Volume 2 contains the conclusion, issues 5 through 8. Both volumes have extensive character sketches, character designs, thumbnails, page layouts, script excerpts. I basically just show you how I put the books together. All of that at amazon.jeremy.net. That's amazon.gerimi.net. You can find links to all of these in the description for the video. In addition to that, you can also find links to my most recent art print that I finished. So I've been talking about it for a while. People who've been watching and subscribed to the channel have watched the process of me completing these pieces. So I've got the Gorgon Shadow 2 pieces are both now available. You can pick up prints of these. And I've got both the green version. Then you can see they come in a 16 by 20 or 8 by 10. Then you can also get the red version as well. So I've got it in green and red, and both of those come in the 2 additional sizes. And there are links in the description for this video as well. And I should have a banner, but I don't. I'll have to create one to let you know that you can pick these up. I've got a new URL that directs you directly to the prints page where all my latest prints will be, but it's just prints.jeremy.net. So my main website is jeremy.net. Prints.jeremy.net will take you there. All right. So let's see. Byron's in the chat. Happy Easter. Tim was in the chat, says, I can't believe you're streaming on Good Friday. Well, it's Easter, where we are in the world. But yes, I am streaming. I am streaming here. Happy Easter. So anyways, here we go. So I've made what I think is a fair amount of progress on the on this latest Medusa's Lover piece. Basically, what I've been doing over the past week is just tweaking and refining. If I fill this with white, I've been tweaking and refining the line art for this. So there's a, if I turn that off, there's a sketch layer underneath. And I've been going through refining the sketches, changing the hand poses, making some tweaks to the figure, and then basically just inking digitally, which I will tell you, I actually I was very concerned when I started moving to making more art on the iPad using Procreate, only because inking is my favorite part of the process. And inking is an extremely tactile process. Feeling how the brush is interacting, the drag that it gives you on the page, how the marks change depending on how wet your brush is, like whether it's super saturated with ink or whether you just have a light coating. And sometimes how you will adjust that by making some stray strokes on a piece of scrap paper to get just the right amount of liquid of ink on your brush for the lines you make, the sizes of the brushes, the texture of the paper, all these things cannot be replaced. They cannot be replicated digitally. That said, I am surprised at how much I found that I still enjoy inking even when I'm doing it in a digital state. So, that's what I've been working on outside of your view, is just getting this piece to the point where it is now, where it's ready for the values. So I'll keep that white layer in there, but I may end up having to delete it at some point because, that's the other thing, is my number of layers is limited on Procreate. It's almost like back to working in like Photoshop 3 or Photoshop 4, where you were limited to the number of layers you could have. It really does feel like a flashback. But what I started doing with this now is, you guys, for people who've been regular viewers, you saw my whole process of working through thumbnails for this piece. And I have the thumbnails are pretty much the colors that I want. So I started with the darkest color for each element: the sheets, the figures, the helmet and the shield and serpents. So now that I've got these darker elements in there, I can just come in and basically just paint light on top of it. And so I'm just going through and selecting the colors from the thumbnail, because I'm like, why overcomplicate it? Got the thumbnails, got the colors I want, just go and do it. So I think I'm gonna select this and I'm gonna start. Well, actually, you know what? I'm gonna take one step backwards. And before I dive in, I am going to let me select my flats layer. Now, instead of layer masks, Procreate has something that's pretty similar to layer masks that I actually enjoy. Which, the only thing that could make this better would be if you could rename your selections, but you have the ability to save selections. So there's a little tab down here at the bottom of the screen, which I can't zoom into that menu because it's part of the navigation, but there's a little menu down here at the bottom where it says save and load, and you can make a selection and then save it. So it's like saving an alpha channel or a layer mask. And one of the things I want to do here is, before I start going in and painting the rest of it, I want to erase out a little bit of the background, because in the thumbnail, I really like the texture where you can see little bits of that dark gray color shining through. And I feel like that makes the background not feel just flat, like it just disappears. So, and that flat color is back there. It's behind the black layer that I have. So I'm just going to go in here and let me see if I have a brush that has a nice texture to it, because I actually don't really use textured brushes that much. I tend to use more of a slick brush. Let's see here. I think this grunge brush, I'll try this because I want something that is scratchy. I don't want like oh wait, I was about to change my regular pen. I want my eraser to be this chunky pen. Yeah, when I'm generally drawing, I have found that I like the studio pen has become my favorite for both penciling and as an erasing tool, just because I don't know, I guess I don't really think about texture as much perhaps as I should. I'm really concerned more with the overall composition and form and shape that I'm trying to get. Now let me see here. See what happens if I raise this up. Okay, that's not giving me much texture at all. So I'm trying to find a brush here. Oh, well, that's part of it. It's I switched back to the brush. All right, instead of the eraser. All right, that might be good. Okay, that's what I want is I want the opacity up. And I can bring the brush size down. I want it to look like something is kind of scratching through the back of the surface. This isn't quite what I want. It's in the ballpark, but just gonna play with this a little bit until I have something I like. Now that is way too large, but it gives me a something closer to what I was looking for. In fact, it might be a matter of combining these two brushes. I might end up going back and forth with this, and it seems stupid to me to spend this much time working on a simple background texture, but it seems to me like this is one of those things that's like those small details that add to a piece. I think I'm actually might want to look at some of the other texture brushes and play around in here, see if there's something else that might work. Let's see here. Amar's in the chat. It says, "Hey Jeremy, happy Sunday to all. Good to see you, man. Good to see you." I'm playing with some textures in the background. At this point, I've pretty much got my line work locked down for this Medusa's Lover piece. Thylacine. This is a brush that I almost never use. And I actually kind of like that mark that it's giving me. I think what I might do is go way over the top with this and like put way too much texture and then come back over it with black, which, yes, it's a waste of time to do it that way. I'm not going to deny that. But sometimes my process is to kind of work back, work into something complex and then simplify it. So I start simple, go a little bit too complex, and then come back down. Amar says it looks like a comic book panel. That is, I think, intentional in the fact that I had a lot of trouble. You saw how long it took me to finish the previous Gorgon piece, which, by the way, I finally made prints available. For those who came in late, I think I showed this at the start of the stream, but there's links in the description for anybody who is interested. The Gorgon Shadow piece. I have it available in both green and red, and it is available in 16 by 20 or 8 by 10. So I finally got this done. But the reason why I bring it up is not to hype myself, but to mention that you guys all saw how long it took me to finish that piece. And I was thinking about the fact that I don't spend that much time when I'm doing comic book pages. I just do them. So I intentionally decided to shift my approach to closer to what I do when I'm making comics. So yes, this does look like a comic book panel. And yes, that's intentional. So I think I'm getting close to that point where I'm going to start knocking some of these back into the background now. And it might be interesting to knock them into the background with the same brush that I'm using here. But I think that that might start getting too crazy texture-wise. Maybe it'll be interesting to use a different brush. And I think in a strange way, I'm trying to create kind of a tonal halo around the figures. If that makes any sense. Like when I paint over these, it's like there's going to be like an area within the black that's like a glow around them. But it's not going to be a glow. It's more going to be a just shift in value. Let's see. Byron says lineless painting takes me far longer than line art. He says I'm a cartoonist at heart, so line art is far faster for me. Corey's in the chat. Says looking good. Thank you, Corey. Greatly appreciate it. Well, you know, I will definitely say that line art makes it so much easier to do flat color. And I realized that when I went back and reworked the piece from the other angle, the one where you're looking above, you're above them looking down at the couple sleeping. I realized that for as many problems as that one was giving me, you know, the simplicity of the approach I took to the coloring, just treating it like like almost cell shaded. It definitely made for once I knew what I wanted, it made coloring it much easier, much faster. And believe it or not, I'm now very interested in doing multiple versions of the same piece. Like I want to go back and do this exact same piece again, but do one super grungy and intentionally use loose line marks, almost like taking the thumbnail that I have that's up here and doing one that is a slightly more refined than this, but almost as rough. Basically, if you were to take this rough sketch, but just do it at a higher resolution, that's what I also want to do. I want to do multiple versions. I want to do one that's rough, and then do one that is no line art and all color. And this is just part of my own personal exploration, my own creative growth. It's not that, you know, it's not that a piece has to be the one perfect piece. I'm very much trying to stay open to exploring more. And when I say trying to, it's because in the past, I think I have. You guys see how relentless I am about trying to nail the perfect idea or the right image, the right idea, trying to make it perfect. And I think looking at my own artwork and saying, well, how much have I explored these different versions, these different ideas? And I have not. And I think opening myself to that kind of exploration is it's not just interesting. I think it's part of my artistic growth that I've neglected is the experiment. Ooh, that is, I like this texture, but I wish the scale. Yeah, that's not random enough for me. It feels a little bit too much of just, which is weird because it's kind of the texture itself is randomized. Like it's made to look like a random pattern, but it looks too regular in its pattern. Okay, that is not giving me, oh, no wonder I was using the brush. There we go. This might be good for me painting some of the black back in. You can see here, it's got a little bit of a wallpaper texture to it. So I don't know if I want that for erasing more out, but I think I might use that for painting more back in. Point being is that all of this is me erasing out areas of areas within the area that I have masked off. If I wanted to, I could just go back and refill all of this with black again. So it gives me, you know, some flexibility. That's one of the things I like about these selections in Procreate. Again, if the Procreate developers are listening, give us the ability to name those selections, because just selection 1, selection 2, selection 3, that ain't cutting it. You can't tell what the hell these are because they're just tiny abstract shapes. You can't tell from the thumbnail. Let's see here. So Corey says that he recently did the same simple piece in a half dozen different styles. It was fun. I found a couple that I'll use in the future. You know what? See, that's the thing. I've been so single-minded in terms of either working on a comic book piece, or if I was doing a standalone illustration, I was just focusing on getting that particular illustration done. I haven't played with different genres. And I think that, you know, as Corey says there, you learn tricks that you can add into your creative process that you might not have. I think it's extremely useful, extremely helpful. So yeah, I'm trying to play more is really what I'm saying here. Let's see here. Amar says, I enjoy what I call sketch painting and miss doing it. I did it for a while. I find it more challenging because I get just freely painting without using a sketch. Well, it's like hell. You know what? Again, everybody's process is different. I think that if your painting is that loose and free, hell, go for it. Let's see. He says it's far more organic. It pushes me to get better far more than paint by numbers or painting done with an undersketch. Well, you know what? I think that comes down to approach, because I've spent a lot of time taking figure drawing classes, and a big thing that has been repeated to me mostly by Carl Ganas, but by many art instructors that I've talked to, is that drawing is painting and painting is drawing. And the fact that we look at them as different processes, and even I'm looking at them when I talk about inking and this flat shaded style, but the idea that the description of form and volume and anatomy and composition, the description of all these things, whether you're doing it with line, whether you're doing it with line and tone, or whether you're doing it with just tone in terms of a painterly style, tone and edges, it's still, they're all of a piece. They're all unified, and we break them down into these categories in our mind. But if you truly learn to master draftsmanship, then painting shouldn't be that big of a problem. Let's see here. Now I'm just looking at some of these other textures, trying to see if there's anything else that I want to play with. There's like a weird scratchy pattern that I've seen in other artists' work that, this is kind of cool. There's a weird scratchy pattern I've seen in other artists' work that I'm interested in, and I'm not sure if that scratchy pattern is a custom brush or whether it's just something that is that they created. Oh, here it is. And I can tell you exactly where I saw it, which is, this is bad to just see stuff. Well, I don't know if it's really bad, but seeing stuff that other artists are doing and then saying, oh, I want to copy that. I think that that's bad if you're just copying it blindly. I think it's good if you try out the tool and see if you can apply it in a new or different way or see how it works in your workflow. But I recently read a couple of volumes of an image comic called Stillwater. I'm a fan of the artist, Ramon Perez. And I noticed, like, I could tell that he was drawing it in Procreate, Well, no, he might have been using a similar brush and working in Clip Studio Paint, but I saw this texture here. If I draw it heavy like that, you can see I saw this texture a lot in the background of a lot of his pages. Not a lot. Let me say I saw it in enough pages that I noticed it, and I noticed it as a digital background texture. And I thought I really liked the way it looked in his pages, and it made me want to play with that. So I think much like sometimes you'll see guys like Sean Gordon Murphy, and he'll use his fingerprint as a texture in comic pages. I think that that's also a cool thing that that I like, that I might want to ape a little bit. Let's see here. Amar says, I still need to get back to my 200 different fine art styles this year for my different art pieces. He says that was a good goal for this year. He says, I have not seen anyone do all or most of the fine art styles as part of learning or education of an artist. He said most focus on mimicking someone else's style or a combo of other styles to create their own art style. Yeah, well, you know what? They say that style is a combination of your influences and your limitations. And I know for myself, I mean, I can easily name like 5 different artists that are very different that influence me. And if I were to combine all of them, it would come up with something that's a weird hodgepodge. It doesn't really seem like it's neither fish nor fowl. You know, here's something I don't know. I I recently, because of the new Moon Knight television show, I went back and I started reading some of the old Bill Sienkiewicz Moon Knights, because Bill Sienkiewicz is one of my favorite artists. And but I'd never, for much of his work that I have read, I'd never read his Moon Knight. So I was able to find it at my local library, and I started reading. And I will tell you that you can see this interesting shift in his work, specifically at about I think it was issue 13 or 14. But there's a point where it goes from, you know, he did definitely, you know, he acknowledged that he was very much influenced by Neil Adams early on, and you can see it in the work. And I don't think that's a bad thing either. But you can clearly see this shift that happens in his work in issue 13, where he starts to become the Bill Sienkiewicz that we know, the Bill Sienkiewicz from New Mutants, the Bill Sienkiewicz from Elektra Assassin. And it's pretty amazing to watch that transformation, and then looking at all the issues from there, how his work develops. Because honestly, some of my favorite stuff of his is New Mutants. I love his painting, but seeing him doing sequential comic work with pen and ink, you know, and some definitely some mixed media, like the experimentation that we know him for, that he's, you know, really brought out in comics, is on display in the New Mutants. But it's interesting to see him doing more simpler. It still has his feel and his flavor, but it's stripped down. It's like listening to, I don't know, Black Sabbath play acoustic. That's more like watching Jimi Hendrix play acoustic. That's actually an interesting way to describe it. Because I do have a, and oddly enough, another Bill Sienkiewicz related project. He did a great graphic novel biography. I cannot remember who the writer is, but he was a writer who was a biographer of musicians and Jimi Hendrix, musicians in general, and Jimi Hendrix in particular. But I think in the very, I don't know if it was the late, yeah, it was like the late 90s. Bill Sienkiewicz did a book called Voodoo Child, and it is a biography of Jimi Hendrix drawn by Bill Sienkiewicz. And me telling you that should tell you how amazing it is, because it lives up to everything I just said. Jimi Hendrix plus Bill Sienkiewicz. It's amazing. It is. In fact, I haven't gone back and reread it in a long time, but it is one of my favorite books of all time. But it came with a CD of Jimi Hendrix playing acoustic guitar, and it's just him doing demo tracks. And the crazy thing is, there's stuff where like you hear a phone ringing in the background, and it sounds so much like you're just in someone's house hanging out with them, that the first couple of times I would listen to it, I was like, where's that phone? And I thought that either, you know, I was hearing my neighbor's phone ringing. I couldn't figure out where the sound was coming from. And then I realized, oh, it's the CD. And you just hear the sound of this phone, and Jimmy's just ignoring the phone. He's just playing and jamming. He don't give a damn. But yeah, just seeing Bill Sienkiewicz drawing New Mutants is kind of reminds me of that Jimi Hendrix project that he drew. Not in terms of the style, the execution is very different, but it reminds me of the music. Hearing and working in a more stripped down style. Now I'm falling into that trap where I'm going to just start overworking this, because I think I took out more than I really wanted. We can go past these down and knock these back a little bit. Let's see here. I feel like I just need one or two like little specks. I keep zooming out because for me, this is how I check to see whether something is reading, is I look at it really small. And I feel like I just need one or two little jabs of I don't even know what brush, whether it should matter. But I feel like I just want to take a couple of bites out of the piece. Like it just needs a couple of like, almost as if this was like a lacquered surface and it was chipped. That's what I'm trying to go for. Just a chipped, kind of messed up surface. Who knows? Maybe I could do this a lot better by just grabbing like a bunch of photos, mashing them up into a collage, and putting them on multiple layers of like multiply and overlay at different opacities. All right, I think that's enough. The background. All right. Then I'm also going to add similar kinds of chips and dents to the definitely to the sword and the helmet. I don't know how much I'm going to add to the statue himself. but I think that I'm good on what I did there with the background. I'm happy with that. All right, so the next step, I'm just gonna move slowly through the piece. So next thing, I'm gonna move from backward to forward. And I go back and forth on these approaches. Sometimes I think it's best to move from the rear of the piece towards the forward. Sometimes I prefer to work from the largest area of the same color or tone to the smallest. It just depends on the composition. Um, I think it's more that it depends on which one is going to define the piece. Like if there's a particularly large, if I were drawing an outdoor scene, there's a large expanse of sky or a large expanse of landscape, I'll probably start with working on that large expanse first and leave everything else flat and then slowly work to the other ones. But in this one, it's kind of like you've got the background of the wall, the foreground of the midground of the figures, the foreground of the bed, and I'm still, let's not forget, I'm going to do an alternate version of this where it's going to be warm colors with candles. So I'm going to do this one to completion. Then I'm going to save a duplicate of this file and change all the colors and throw the candles on top. So we shall see how that goes. Because I think that I may end up having to shift some pieces around. I'm going to erase parts of the line art to put the candles in. And I want to leave all of that because I feel like while I have the option of trying to use layers in order to make that transition and change stuff, I kind of want to be non-destructive in the sense of do this completion, set it to the side, and then if I have to erase parts of the line art and change it dramatically to make that new layout work, then that's what I'll do. Because I'll have a separate file that's saved and finished. See, Jay King's in the chat. Says, "What's good, brother? People, it's all good. Happy Easter. Thank you for joining us." Let's see here. In fact, let's see here. All right. Oh, selections. That's what I was going to do. So working from the back forward. So I've got a selection saved out that has both the helmet and the shield together. So I can bring that up. And the nice thing is I've got my thumbnail, and these are just really monochromatic. It's just a dark blue and a lighter blue. So I can go select my lighter blue, turn my thumbnail off. Now, these are the flats. I'm going to take that layer that I had with the white in it, and I am going to, first off, all right, I'm going to have to deselect for a second so I can do this properly. First off, let's rename this tones. And for me, the reason why I'm so anal about naming my layers is because it's very easy if I come back later on to work on a piece. It's very easy for me to forget what's on what layer. Even though I'm not using a ton of layers, I don't like the hunt and pack and turning layers on and off. Like, is this on this layer? Is this that layer? Is this? I like just opening them up, look at the name, I see what it is, and I go forward. Some people don't name their layers at all, and they just bold, just barrel ahead forward. It's not what I enjoy, but I am of the you do you camp. Whatever is the process that you find the most satisfying, gratifying is what you should do. So let's see here. I think the way I will approach this is that I will use the studio pen to block in the light in general, and then I'll come back with a soft airbrush and smooth it out. Or I'll make it fade off, so it's kind of like the lasso cut gradient process. It'll be kind of like that. I mean, actually, you know what? I could do the exact opposite. I could, where's my soft brush? So I've got like a Jeremy brushes where it's just all of the brushes that I tend to use the most. I mean, I don't need to stay super beholden to the thumbnail, but what I do like is when I'm trying something and it's a half-formed thought in my head, which what I'm about to do is, whenever I'm trying a half-formed thought in my head, it does help for me to be looking at something to remind me of my goal while I'm doing it. So I'm going to leave the, in fact, let me lock my flats real quick so I don't accidentally paint on this. Because y'all know how it happens. When you start painting on the wrong layer and you discover it like 10 minutes later, half hour later, and you are pissed. Because you got to decide, do I want to revert or do I want to barrel forward? And in Procreate, there's no revert anyway. So you just got to keep tapping backwards. And if you sometimes I've gone backwards and then realized I can't get back to where I wanted to be. And then I have to decide, well, I'm just going to go forward to where I am and just work with it on with some of this on a combined layer because I don't really have that option. So again, Procreate, not perfect. There's a benefit of it saving automatically everywhere, every step you go. I think that having save points as opposed to auto saving might, I don't know if it would reduce the, or I don't know if it would increase the load on the device in terms of how well it could process it or not. Let's see here. Yes, Amar also on his name layer is best practice. See, that's from somebody from old school design. You name everything. I mean, part of that is just in this case, I'm doing this so that if I come back and I'm opening these files a year later, 2 years later, I know what's what. It used to be that in my work environments, and even today still, it's common, it's just courtesy to your fellow designers, because more often than not, you're sharing files or you're doing a file where it might be your finished piece, your finished design, but what you designed will end up being a template for somebody else where they have to do a similar project to what you're doing, but it's going to have the same layout, just different graphics. And so naming what all these things are just makes it easier for your fellow designers. That's just it's just common courtesy to name your layers. So what I'm going to try doing is, instead of drawing the first off, let's see if this brush is the right size. Let me bring the opacity down to something. Okay, that brush is a little bit too big. It's a little too small. I know, we're playing Goldilocks over here. So my goal here is to, instead of using the airbrush to soften and disappear and erase out, I'm instead starting soft and I'm going to erase out hard. And if that doesn't make any sense, maybe it will once you see me finish. And I find myself going in here and wanting to darken some of this more, and then I realize, well, that's kind of, this area isn't supposed to be very dark because it's the background. I don't really want it to stand out. Let's bring this brush down tiny so I can get a little bit of rim light along the edge of the blade there. Now, come in here with the eraser. Let's see here. Martin's in the chat. Hey, hey, hey. How you doing, man? Thanks for popping in. Cruising along here. I think I've got this Medusa piece just about worked out. And as Amar noticed earlier, he said that it looks a lot like a comic panel. That, I think, was the big thing that broke this wide open for me, is I realized, why am I fighting my natural tendencies or strengths or interests if doing comic art is the thing that I tend to do most and I tend to be best at? Why fight that? So I thought, let's go and look at this in a comic booky, just render it in a comic book style. That's really what I'm saying here. In a blah bitty blah kind of way. Now the question is, what brush do I want to use for the erasing? You want to go textured or non-textured? Let's see here. Well, I think for something like this, how's that look? That's not giving me very much. I have to work too much to get that. Let's see here. Ooh. All right, let's bring that brush size down. That might work. So I'm just trying to basically do the opposite of what I would normally do, which is instead come out with a soft airbrush and kind of soften the edges of each of these. Instead, I'm coming in and drawing it soft, then carving out harder shadows. Let's see. That's not right. I think that'll work. Let's see here. Martin says, looking good. Nike's in the chat, says, yo, hey, what's going on? You know, I feel like this brush has just a little too much texture on it. Like just a little bit too much tooth. I think I need to switch to something that's a little less grungy. Let me go back to my one of my cats is under my chair trying to wage war with me. I just felt something pulling at my back. All right, let's see here. Go to my favorite brushes, my most used brushes. Let's go back to this Jansen inker. Maybe that'll give me what I'm looking for. Let me just drag this across the middle and see what kind of line it gives me. That gives me a good line. I think I should be careful with this only because the one thing I found with this brush is that it's a little bit unpredictable in terms of the line weight that it gives me. It's the main thing I need to look out for here. Oop, see, like for instance, it started out, they're giving me a very wide line. I don't want a very wide line. Like this is super fun for sketching because it gives me the unpredictableness that that drawing with traditional ink has. But it really does sometimes just do some stuff. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? Yeah, you know what? This one just doesn't give me enough control. I think that it's much funner for much more fun for thumbnailing. I think I need something with a little bit more control in order to do what I'm doing now. And hey, Corvus is on the chat. Hello, how you doing? Thanks for watching. Let's see here. By the way, we are at 52 minutes. So we'll probably go up till the top of the hour and call it. And you know, I mentioned this before. The art book study group for Patreon, we're doing another one this coming Thursday. So if you want to hang out for a 2.5, 3 hour long live stream, you can get that by becoming a Patreon subscriber for as little as $2 a month. So that'll be this Wednesday at 7:30 Pacific Standard Time. But the replays will be available for all subscribers. So you'll be able to watch that whenever you like. And you'll also be able to go back. If you just want to say, hey, I just want to watch hours and hours of Jeremy talking about figure drawing and anatomy, there's already like probably 100 hours worth of live streams already archived on there for you to watch. It's part of the art book study group. Just saying. Just saying. All right, I really got to decide what brush I want to use for erasing this. Let me try the reed. Because the reed is a nice figure drawing pen. I use when I'm trying to do something that I'm experimenting with, trying to make it look and feel like figure drawing, I'll either use the reed or the peppermint. These are standard brushes that come with Procreate. I will occasionally, if a friend will recommend a brush, I'll download it, but I don't have anything against buying brush sets. I think that's a great thing that artists provide that they make their brush sets available for purchase so people can check out their work. I mean, so they can try to, like someone who makes a really useful custom brush, I think it's actually super cool that people make that available to purchase. But that said, I try to approach the work in general, no matter what I'm drawing, as it's not the tool, it's the hand controlling it. So I try not to get too caught up in finding, oh, this is a cool brush that gives me a technique or a look. I try to say, are the volumes good? Is the anatomy good? Is the composition good? And if I can get that down on the page, then I'm happy. Let me see what happens if I just shave just a hair off the top. Like it goes from the surface you're looking at, like there's just a little lip where it turns away. Let's see how that looks. get in here a little bit more. I was very irregular with the way that I drew these in. So it's got a little bit of a sloppy feel. Well, I mean, the whole thing is like the ink line is pretty tight. And the advantage of having a tight ink line is that I can go even sloppier with the colors. I don't have to be precise. I don't have to be exact. Just get in there, have a little bit of fun with it. Let's see here. That's not good. It needs to be more like this. Nope, that's too much. What I need to do is come over this way. So what I actually need to do is I still need to come in here with a soft brush and erase this down, because the side that I'm on right now, the right side of the form is the side that should be disappearing softly as opposed to in a direct and harsh manner. So I do need to come in here and soften up this edge and just make it like it's kind of fading out a little bit. Let's see here. Corvus says, doing like meh, the best. Lost 2 SD cards with approximately 3,000 to 4,000 images combined. Oh, non-commercial photographer, just images and the value of the SD cards lost. Yeah, but I mean, still, I mean, that's to me like a photographer losing their SD card full of images. That'd be like me losing a sketchbook. It might not be I've destroyed some paintings, but I feel your pain. I mean, yeah, it'd even be like if I had like some digital pieces that I'd completed, and I might have the originals, but like the scans and any colors I did, I feel for you. I feel your pain. That totally sucks. Let's see here. I don't need to do that, but I do need to come in here and put a little bit of a line. That's too much. I think I probably need to bring a little bit more of this soft erasing to the underside, right in here. Just softening the underside of this arc between the outer part of the shield and the inner part. By the way, does anybody know what they call those rivets that go around the outside of shields? Because not every shield has them. I mean, it's definitely a thing that I've seen it, in like some Greco-Roman art. I think I've seen it in medieval art, but I don't know if those little rivets have a name and whether they have a function beyond like, whether it's just something to help weapons deflect off of your shield. But just curious if anybody knows, because I don't know. All right, so that's that piece. Turn off the thumbnail there. And I feel like this could even be darker. Let me see what happens if I just knock the whole thing back a little bit. Make the eraser nice and big and just give it a quick pass of knocking the whole thing back in terms of value, knock it back into the shadows. Yeah, it doesn't need to be as bright as I had it. Let's see here. Cassie Da Vinci says Happy Easter. Okay. All right. So, guys, we're at the top of the hour here, and I do actually have some Easter plans with family. So I am going to have to wrap it up. But like I said, the art book study group, and for those in the know, hopefully I will see you there, and if not, hopefully you'll enjoy the replay. All right. So I mean, really, yeah, the progress is by inches as opposed to miles. But I got in that background texture that I'm happy with. Got this shield painted in there. By the way, once I get all of the tones painted, once I get all of the highlights painted in, then I'm going to come back and I'm going to adjust the color of the line art. So for the statue, the helmet, and the sword, I'm probably going to make the line art lighter to make it fade in a little bit more, to give it kind of more of a ghostly feel to it. Really keep the darker lines to like the sheets and to the Gorgon. Actually, maybe not the sheets, but that's the other thing. The sheets themselves, I think that's a thing I learned by painting the last the overhead Medusa piece. I think I may actually take all of this line art and knock it way back in terms of opacity, or change the color to something super light, and try to make all of these wave-like shapes that are in here. These are guidelines where I'm going to paint the light in. But I think that most of the sheets are going to, instead of being actual line, are going to just be tones. I'm going to do basically color holds on the line art, or just drop them out completely and do all of this in light. So it'll be interesting to see how that comes out. Oh, and for those who arrived late, let's see, Corvus did actually throw out the answer there, which, I figure somebody who does gaming would also know more about weapons and armor. He says, I think the main job of those rivets is just to hold the rim to the main body of the shield together. That is good to know. And it's completely obvious. I just didn't think about the actual answer. I appreciate that. For those who came in late, the other Medusa Gorgon piece, this is available at prints.jeremy.net. That's PRINTS.jeremy.net. And I've got the red version, and then the green version. It's available in 8x10 and 16x20. And there are links to this piece in the description for this video. So if you've been waiting on this one, and yes, the black one is going to be limited edition. I haven't set it up in the store yet. I feel like it's stupid. There's people who enjoy my work and want to hang it on their walls, and I'm not making it available. It's literally just the amount of stuff I have to get done on a day-to-day basis keeps me from having the time to properly do this, to set these up and make these available. So that is the challenge that I have, is just getting it up and available. But yeah, there'll be a limited edition version of the black that I'm only gonna have 20 available. But yeah, that is available, and there's a link in the description to the video for the Gorgon Shadow 2 piece. That one will be so that's there if you guys are interested. All right. Nike says, thanks again. You are super welcome. And thank you guys for hanging out, for spending all this time with me, for all the great comments and feedback. So again, if you'd like to get 2 to 3 bonus live streams per month, If you'd like to read my comic books free online, get digital wallpapers. I made digital wallpapers of the Medusa pieces for Patreon subscribers. I may release one of them for the newsletter, but I made a set of 3 for people for Patreon subscribers. If you'd like to see layered PSDs of the finished works, I can share those as well. All of that at patreon.com/GERIMI. For as little as $2 a month, you get access to all of that. You get access to our Discord server where we share artwork, get feedback, discuss process and creativity. All of that and more. Patreon.com/GERIMI. If you would like to get a free digital sketchbook, if you'd like to get work in progress animated GIFs delivered right to your inbox, if you'd like to hear about what I'm reading, what I'm watching, what's inspiring me creatively, you can sign up for my free monthly newsletter at newsletter.jeremy.net. Sometimes I post more than once a month when I have a new piece. Like I plan to share a post about the new print. I just have not had a chance to do that yet. But that's there for you guys to sign up and hang out. You can hear about whenever I've got new stuff coming out, the latest and greatest. And if you'd like to purchase physical copies of my comics, or if you're a digital on Comixology or Kindle, you can go to amazon.jeremy.net. That will forward you to my Amazon author page. You can pick up books like my first graphic novel, Eye of the Gods, psychological thriller about a man cursed with visions he cannot control. He can look through other people's eyes, he can see what they are seeing, but he can't control when or where. Then he witnesses a murder, only to find out it's being reported in the news as a death by natural causes. You can also pick up my most recent comic book, Morning Star. Tells the story of Lucifer's fall from heaven as a Western. Volume 1 contains issues 1 through 4. Volume 2 contains the conclusion of the series, issues 5 through 8. Both volumes have extensive back matter, character designs, sketches, thumbnails, script excerpts, and more. It shows you my reference and how I use reference in my comics. It's basically in the back of the book, it's got a step-by-step on how comics are put together. You get all of that and more at my Amazon author page, amazon.jeremy.net. All right, guys. Thank you again for hanging out with me on this wonderful Easter day. I hope that your day is happy and healthy, and that you guys have family and friends and loved ones that you can enjoy and be with, regardless of what you practice or subscribe to or believe. I hope that you have a beautiful day with your loved ones. So everyone, thank you so much. That's it for now. Go be creative.